Chronicle, the APNU, I guess, just ended the meeting with the Commission. What were the primary issues put forward to the Commission, and what was the response?
Okay, thank you very much. We had sent originally a missive to the Commission requesting that we discuss several issues today for clarification and to know how we are going to proceed. Among them was the recount process, the way we are going to, the Commission intends to proceed with the findings of the stakeholders. We highlighted some of the anomalies that we have discovered, and so on. We were able to lay very clearly what are some of our supporting issues. For example, one of the commissioners, Commissioner Ben, for example, has been saying that on the claim of the dead voting, he is claiming that those are allegations. And so we have made it very clear to him that we have substantial evidence, most of which have been produced by the counting agents in the various workstations and so on. So we've also said to the Commission that if you believe that these things that we are saying that they are not true, they can be verified. There are entities, government entities can verify them. For example, those who are dead, they can verify that by checking the GRO death list. The Commission can do that. Don't give us that responsibility to do. But I must tell you that we have been able to tender a number of death certificates for such an anomaly. On the question of the people who migrated, etc., there is also an entity, the Immigration Department, where GECOM also contests the validity of that. We've highlighted other areas where we have discovered things like oaths not being signed and taken, ID cards not being used, poll books being absent. We highlighted there was a case of one area where only the ballots came and there were no records, and we are contending that that might very well be a fake box. So actually what we did, we highlighted some of the issues that we have concerns about. We also highlighted the fact that there is an order that was gazetted, and we expect the Commission to follow that order and not to have to change on a daily basis those things that are gazetted in the order. We also had a look at the pandemic, which Commodore Lawrence addressed, the COVID-19, because we are concerned not only that our agents must be protected, but the Commission and all the dwellers on these premises. And so my colleague Commodore Lawrence, she addressed that frontally with them. So those are some of the things that we addressed with the Commission.
Yesterday when we spoke to Minister Cathy, she said that when the meeting is held, the party would look to have a greater understanding of how the Commission would be utilizing the report, the observation report, at the end of the process. What you were told about how the Commission will be treating with that document?
We do not have a commitment yet from the Commission, but we highlighted that everything that is being discovered. We rely on the commission to make a decision as to how they will treat with it.
But any explanation was offered, anything of the sort?
No, not yet.
The party would have, just before you came, you had a representative of another party alleging that the APNUFC is abusing its power in office to access these debt certificates and immigration record. How do you respond to something like that?
Abusing our
power to access the records, immigration records and debt certificates.
Anybody can access a debt certificate. I think what you have to pay is about $300, and you can access a debt certificate. So we don't have to abuse any power. And look, we have done quite a lot of work in every nook and cranny of this country. And so we are aware of all those people who departed these shores and did not come back. We also know who are the dead and were not in the country and they voted.
You said you would have provided the commission with a number of debt certificates.
Yeah.
Could you say what that number is, how many you've provided thus far, and how many more you have in your possession?
I can't give you a count right now how much we have tendered, because that is completed is Region 1 and 90-something boxes, 99 boxes, and they are doing other regions to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I know for sure that we have in our possession death certificates for people in all those regions.
In relation to the immigration records, you mentioned that you have persons all over the country that would know that these persons would not have returned to vote. How is it possible, while you have your party agents also at the polling stations, for persons to go and vote in place of these people, or to allow these things to happen?
Allow what to happen?
The anomalies that you mentioned where persons who were not in Guyana voted.
Like those voters.
Now, what I'm saying to you is that we have done field work. We didn't have to wait for elections to finish to do field work. We did our field work prior to that, and our agents are properly trained to look for them.
But it would have been elections that these persons would have had to be here to vote. So
but they were not. They voted, but they were not in country.
Could you tell us?
No, I was just trying to ask, how come it was detected at the polling station?
How come?
How come these alleged ghost voters were not detected at the polling station by your agent to say, hey, this person, I have information to suggest that he's dead?
Well, my agent known everybody. My agent might not have known everybody. So my agent would not have been able to detect all of it. I don't know how many my agent would have detected on that day. But my agent not all.
But you said, Minister Paulina, you said that you would have done field work prior to March 2nd. Did you not inform your agents to look for these people, this dead, this
on the list?
We did not expect the PPP to pull a stunt like that on these elections.
You must
not prepare anyone to go looking or to go after that.
You
but
must
we
have
know.
anticipated that, given that you went to look for the records before elections.
That is a normal thing, madam. When you do political field work, I can understand that you don't understand that because you're a journalist and you might be a professional. But as politicians, we do all this preparatory work prior to.
Mr. Ali, you said to us how you were able to ascertain that persons were dead, how you were able to ascertain that those on the OLE would have migrated and not been present on March 2nd. But what we're seeing is a bit of an issue. How do you ascertain that these persons have actually cast a ballot? Because we are seeing places where we have the list where it's a procedure to mark the name, but we have agents list not matching PO's list. We have folios not returning, lists not returning. How are you able to?
All right, let me tell you very simply how we detected. We have the list, we have our voters list that were used by our polling agents in the various regions. So in the station, you tick off those who vote. You tick off those who vote. Whether they were conned or not in the polling station, that's a different matter, but you tick off. But in the polling station, they didn't carry in the list of the people who were dead or the list of the people who migrated or who were not supposed to be in the country. So when they come to the station here, now that we are dealing with that, we use our list to find out from the people, the GECOM officials in here, could you tell us whether serial number so is ticked off? Because their list is the official list. And when they give us the answer that yes, it was ticked off, with the work that we have done, we know that this person was not present in the country, and that is where the challenge begins.
But again, we're seeing issues where the ticks don't match on the different lists, or we have lists that have not been returned. What are you doing in situations like that?
I must let you know that the only list that is a credible list, the authentic list, is the list that GECOM has. Our list that we have there, it helps to guide us. But the list that we have to work with is that of GECOM. That's the only official list.
Ms. Ali, there has been repeated calls. There have been repeated calls for the APNU AFC to make public its statements of poll. Recently, we heard from Mr. Bruce Golden, who led the OAS mission to Guyana, and he would have said that based on what he's seeing, the SOPs that he saw and those of the statements of recount thus far would have shown that Mr. Mingo would have inflated the numbers in favor of the APNU. One, is there a point in time you'll say maybe let's show them that our figures do match what Mr. Mingo have or it differs? How do you treat with that? Is the party going to make public its
Let me start by answering you that the coalition is not a bedmate of Bruce Golding. And we don't go hunting with him. We have gone past statements of poll. We're not dealing with statements of poll now. As a matter of fact, only yesterday I did an interview, and I made it very clear that if we're talking SOPs, the only SOP that is authentic is the SOP of GECOM. You could have an SOP, I could have an SOP. But let me tell you, prior to the announcement of these results, the PPP, they already had their results prepared and published. And as journalists, I'm sure you all know that. And they made their SOPs in accordance to what they published. So right now, we ain't got no time with SOPs from PPP or coalition. The SOPs from the commission, we respect the commission and we know the commission is doing their work. That is the SOP that anyone has to use. But mind you, at this point in time, we are gone past SOP.
I know you said you've gone past that, but I'm sure that as a political party, you might be looking at your numbers to see if as the recount progresses, your numbers may increase or it may decrease. Now it is reported that so far for Region 4, you've lost close to 2,000 votes. Would you say this is not true? I think it's 1,500 and change. Would you say this is not true based on what we're doing? Because I'm sure you would be doing your analysis.
Because we know that the recount is the recount and that we have gone past the SOPs, we are not going back to waste time on that.
So
what we are looking, we haven't done, we are not doing any comparative analysis for that yet. But I can tell you that what matters now is what this national recount is revealing.
Mr. Golding also referred to the corresponding statements of recount in his preliminary report. So he also referred to figures coming out of this recount right now.
Yeah.
And those statements are public on the Facebook page.
What did you will also recall that Mr. Golden made comparisons with what was previously announced. If he is relying on this recount, then rely on this recount. Mr. Golden can't be in Jamaica and rely on comparison or this recount here now. Okay? Yes, but we are not doing a comparison. What we are doing is counting the ballot boxes that are here, and we are also checking for credibility.
You said that we have moved past the SOPs and now come to the statements of recount. Will your party support the declaration of the bill for the election based on the...
Most certainly, whoever the commission declares, so be it. That's the person or the party. Why would we object to it? We signed on. We wanted this.
On the results of the recount, because we have Mr. Basil Williams saying that he's questioning the legality of the recount. So
that will be another question. Maybe Roysdale will be able to answer that. Not a lawyer, I'm just a politician. Simple little one.
Good afternoon. For your question, could you please repeat it, please?
Mr. Basil Williams, he's saying that he's questioning the legality of the recount. He's saying that there is no law in the Constitution that provides for the recount
outside of an election petition.
For GECOM to use that result.
Exactly.
To announce
the winner.
As an attorney at law, I share the view of Mr. Basil Williams. The Elections Commission's decision, however, to engage in a process of a recount is altogether a different matter. I must make it very clear to you for you to appreciate what I'm saying. The Commission's decision to engage in a recount is an independent decision taken by the Commission. Whether it's legal or not, we are entitled, first as lawyers and as a party, to take a position contrary to that. Nevertheless, we are entitled also to participate in the process and to make meaningful contributions to the process at each step of the way. So I don't see the two positions, what Mr. Basil Williams said, that he believes that the process is illegal. I also feel that the manner in which it was done brings into question some issues which we will have to consider as a party, and lawyers are all around the world are contacting me. People are engaged in debates in the legal circles around the Commonwealth as to whether this could happen, as to whether you could have a recount of this nature before a declaration has been made. Whether in the circumstances, it's not the usual situation. In every Commonwealth country in the world from which we inherit the traditions of Britain, that you will go to an election petition, a declaration is made. But nevertheless, our commission has decided that it has the powers to do what it wants to do. So Basil Williams or myself views at this stage are personal, though important to us. They are not really relevant to what is taking place now. The fact is, a recount is taking place.
Will the party accept the results of this recount? Does the party hold the view, or does the party hold the position that what happens at this recount is final? Will you accept what happens here?
We take the view that whatever happens at the recount is final. Finality and acceptance of the results means that you want to get to me to ask me whether the party will take at some point a future decision to file an election petition. Should it go the opposite way? Should it go the opposite way in relation to the PPP? Would any party file an election petition? Those are matters for which I don't think that we are in position to answer now, because we could only answer those questions based on an analysis of what has taken place and a conclusion of the recount process. But in terms of its finality and what it decides one way or another, yes. In terms of consequential steps, our party can't take a position on that right now.
Okay, as a lawyer, if I can ask you, there have been lots of words thrown around here, one of which is electoral fraud. Could you say for us what you believe within Guyana's, the ambit of Guyana's law, as a threshold for electoral fraud? And do you believe that the alleged actions of Mr. Ming will meet that threshold?
First, we have a lot of conclusions being drawn in relation to what Mr. Mingo has done, or what Mr. Mingo would do. and what Mr. Mingo did. I want to reject out of hand the personalized assertions made in relation to Mr. Mingo. The PPP has been very successful so far in personalizing whatever they think happened to Mr. Mingo. And I can't answer a question that is premised on something that I don't know. You don't know that Mr. Mingo did anything. The process that leads to a declaration at the regional level or the district level is a long and cumbersome process. I would find it mind-boggling to believe that Mr. Mingo on the 13th of March, or on the previous day, I think it was the 8th or 9th of March, could have just imaginarily just write down a set of numbers on a spreadsheet and call them up. You would have attended the declaration at Kingston Elections Commission office after the court ordered that the statement supposed to be put up. The polls had to come from somewhere. So I don't want to get into whether it is a personalized process and whether that amounts to electoral fraud, because we have to first determine who's responsible for the electoral fraud. And when we're talking about electoral fraud and responsibility for electoral fraud, this process has led up to this stage of the 5 regions. Region 1 has been completed, and the 4 other regions, it has demonstrated electoral fraud. And whilst we are debating whether something is electoral fraud or not, to the extent that the last decision made by Justice Holder, I believe, in the High Court, and there's no case file setting aside the last declaration made by Mr. Mingo, it is the final position in relation to the Region 4 declaration. Now, but let us discuss electoral fraud. Our party, through its agents and the hard work that we have done so far, has been able to produce numerous instances of the dead voting, numerous instances of overseas and migrant persons voting. You must appreciate that to achieve that process, and a lot of questions I've been monitoring from time to time, seem to center and place the responsibility to prevent such unlawful and fraudulent activities only on the side of APNU AFC agents. And I see the newspapers and the media carrying that as a line, blaming APNU AFC from not having its agents there to prevent the fraud. But the people who conduct the elections is the Elections Commission. The presiding officer who sits there with a folio, with a colored folio, and waves an ID card in front of people sitting about 5 or 6 feet away. This is Tom Jones, ID card number 14963, and the process goes on. That presiding officer is the person responsible and in control of the polling place. So it's not APNU AFC is in charge and control of the polling place. An objection could have been made, and we are informed, but Mr. Ali, the General Secretary, would have told you just now, that we have made objections. Our party agents made objections. And I don't want the public to run away with whatever totality of objections we made are the objections recorded here. We have objections we would have made at polling stations across the country. Now, where is the polling books to confirm those objections made? They're not there.
GECOM has recovered all of the polls.
No, sir. We just emerged from a meeting. We just emerged from a meeting where the Deputy Chief Elections Officer indicated to us, unless I get in Senate very quickly, that polling books are still missing.
How many?
She didn't mention a number, but she didn't say from what region. But from what the observation report that we have been finding, the polling books seem to be missing from all the regions. They seem to be a feature across the board. So when we're talking about electoral fraud, I want us to understand that it is a very broad concept.
Systemic fraud.
And it's a systemic fraud that will be taking place in this election. One of the things that we took away and we were reassured from the meeting this afternoon is that the Commission reaffirmed and restated that this recount process is not a mere numerical process. It also seeks to determine the credibility of the election. As Ms. Ali said, they have not been able to make a determination as to the credibility of the election, as you would reasonably understand that is a process that would come as an ongoing analysis and at the conclusion of the process. But the credibility of the elections is surely an issue for the determination and consideration of the Commission.
Mr. Norton yesterday spoke about ballots cast in favor of the APNU AFC that had no stamps and were deemed rejected. Did this issue come up today? Yes. And what was the solution?
Definitely. The issue came up. Ms. Ali raised it, Mr. Harmon raised it, and the have to get back to us and provide us with a response to that.
The other thing is the commission, I'm not sure if as we speak the National Task Force would have submitted its advice on the addition of maybe 6 or 5 more workstations. Could you say if the APNU is in support of the increased number of workstations so as to accelerate the process with which they're counting the ballots within those boxes?
Let Ms. Lawrence answer.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. The first thing that we should be talking about is safety and security for each and every person in this country. From the inception, the GECOM has asked the task force to ensure that they have professional advice in terms of the utilization of space and the number of persons who should be in any space at a particular time. And I'm quite certain that all of you are aware why they would have done that. And that is because we have a pandemic. And so it is not for the APNU or any other political party at this point to say, oh, I want 10 or who want 20 or who want 50. The main thing should be, can we carry out this operation within a safe environment? And I believe that the commission recognized the members of the HEOC, that's the Health Emergency Committee, can provide such a technical advice to them, and that's why they would have asked. As far as I'm aware, that report has not been presented as yet. I trust it will be soon so that the task force can be able to share that with GECOM. But let me repeat again. Guyana is not safe right now with regards to this pandemic. As you would have noted, when I came here, the first thing I have to speak to you about is social distancing. COVID-19 is real. Listen to those persons who have been infected, and everyone is saying to you, I don't want anybody to get this disease. And so that must be the online call in terms of how many more stations can be added. That is that the safety of all within this environment, not only safety from the COVID virus, but also safety in terms of protection from abuse by persons within the present environs of the Otachong Convention Center.
How do you respond to the allegation that the task force has been politicized? And if you could personally respond to a claim that in entering the Otachong Convention Center, you did not submit yourself for health scrutiny?
Oh, that is what the young man who said hello to us while we were being checked told you. Well, that's not true. We were checked. The nurses did come there and they did check.
I was
and it is not
6.1.
And it's not true what Commissioner Gunrat said, because he was passing and he did shout out good afternoon to us there, and we responded. It is not true.
And the first question, how do you respond to the accusation that the task force is being politicized and in some ways being used to stymie this process?
Let me just say, the task force, the chair of the task force is the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Moses Nagamoto. He's the Prime Minister because he run on a political slate. All of the other persons on that task force are ministers because there are certain responsibilities which falls within their purview. If anybody wants to talk about politicizing COVID-19, see the PPP. They are the ones that put people's lives at stake. Since January, when we were talking about it, they were telling people that I was lying. I was using it as a political gimmick. When we said, okay, since we will not have enough police to man the entry into Guyana on our Suriname borders, I was told that I was using it as a political gimmick.
where we have 10 persons dead, and we have over 100 persons who have contracted this virus, including children, and including 4 families. And I said to you, I would have preferred to be at home right now than being out here, because that is how dangerous COVID is. I'm afraid of it. If they're not, fine. But you know what? At the end of the day, I can stay at home, but that wouldn't stop COVID. All of us have to be involved in it. All of us. Because COVID ain't a political party. And he ain't a friend, and he ain't a race. He's just here to kill. So we have to decide as a people, in whatever decision we're making right now, the first thing that we have to ensure that we put in place is security, is to diminish the risk of spreading the COVID virus.
Given all that you would have said, and I know you said it's from matter for the health experts, but as a minister of health, the reports that there are more than 400 people, but there's also a need to accelerate the counting process to reach the 25-day deadline. From where you stand, do you think once there are enough precautionary measures in place, it would be okay to increase the number of workstations? So as to bring an end
I think you're repeating the question again. I think I've said that in everything that we do, whether it's personal, whether it is together, that we have to ensure that all the measures are in place to protect everyone from COVID-19. Everyone. That must be our first base. And secondly, let me just remind you that the PPP was invited to be a part of the task force. That Mr. Frank Anthony was invited from the inception to be a part of the HEOC, because we knew from the information which we had that COVID-19 needed everyone on board. It's not only our call, it's the call of the Director General of the World Health Organization. It's the call of the Director of the Pan American Health Organization. It's the call of so many other leaders in the world asking that people come together to fight COVID-19. And that is what we should be thinking about. Stay safe.
One of the earlier questions. You noted that you presented death certificates to the commission. Did you present it in today's meeting, or has your agent been presenting it over time?
The agents have been presenting it in their stations.
And let's say we have Region 1 having been completed. Could you give us an idea as to how many you would have submitted to Region 1?
No, I said earlier that I couldn't give you the figure at the moment, that I can come with that subsequently, but we have submitted.
Minister Ali, would you support your commissioners on a GECOM to support not using the data from the recount and instead using the results that were declared that are in the
That is water under the bridge, boss. That is water under the bridge. Meaning just that. We are in a national recount now.
So are you saying that those declarations no longer matter to you?
I wouldn't say that they no longer matter to me. As far as I'm concerned, all of them are valid. Or once they are signed off by the arrows in every region, they are valid. But I can determine what the commission will determine at the end of this process. I would like to give my views, but let the commission do its work.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and the President have used the COVID-19 issue as an excuse for rejecting the Carter Center's re-entry. Was that on the advice of the task force?
You were told that that is the reason why the Carter Center was rejected? I hope that you know that with the COVID-19 pandemic, we closed all our borders, and it is only essential services that enter and or leave this country. Don't assume and think it's a decision. That is a normal thing that the PPP does, and I trust that it is not PPP propaganda that you are putting to us. That has never been given as the reason for Carter Center not to be here. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've spent a very long time with you, and we have pointed out, or we have given an update of what took place today. Thank you very much.
Stay safe. Keep the social distancing.
Yes.